Phil Reed here, and I'm going to talk with Dan Stine today. Dan is an author. He is a BIM manager. He is a lecturer. I'll let him introduce. The point of the call is we're going to go through one of Dan's projects and really get into some of the details of how these pieces were done inside of Revit. Kind of really just walk through the building as a virtual tour. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Phil. We're going to be talking about the model here that's based on my interior design Revit textbook. This is also a book that I use to teach at an interior design program at North Dakota State University. I'll also be presenting an interior design class at RTC in Australia in early May. Looking forward to that. I just bought 4 plane tickets this week.
Have you been before?
I have not, so I'm looking forward to the 15-hour flight from LAX.
Oh, it's not that bad. You just put the little ones to sleep.
The little ones are senior in high school and 8th grade.
So they just need like iPhones. Oh, there's internet access on international flights now.
Yep.
So that does keep you from getting stir crazy.
Right.
And you guys are going to take the chance to tour around a bit?
Yeah, we're going to be there for nearly 2 weeks.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
Looking forward to it. Similar to our recent excursion to Singapore.
So you're also an author?
Yeah, I've written 10 textbooks, and 2 of them are on hand sketching, by the way. The Economy of Time in a Digital World.
Look, so you should, I'll post links to these books for this video. I think that's a good way to give people more detail. If we walk through this, can you point out things that are really carefully covered in your book and explain, just quickly explain the particulars and the details that go into something like this and how this is really doable in Revit? You just have to understand the right techniques. So we're in the lobby right now, obviously, and we can walk around the building and have a look. Can you, where do you want to start?
Right. Well, there's several things that we can see right in this view. There's a pretty intense coverage of materials and the material editor. So you can see the floor tile that's showing up here and the need to get the correct texture, the correct size and orientation. There's also coverage of Revit's synthetic materials, as I like to call them. That's a little known feature in Revit where you can make your own materials that have different colored grout joints and staggered patterns. And so the other thing is there's a lot of manufacturer content in this model, and in the process of creating this model, we see some steel case and coalesce furniture. We see USG ceiling tiles. So if we look over by the entry there's some of the USG geometric ceiling tiles.
So you didn't necessarily build all the content that's going in here, but you're assembling it.
Correct. We're trying to mimic the real world scenario of what an interior designer would do, and hopefully they're not creating every piece of content that they need to use. So this book directs them to go to the USG website and download that ceiling tile. And if you look straight up, you'll see the Wavy Ceiling tile that's also downloaded. And then there's casework that we'll see a little bit when we go into the staff break room. But
right.
We see
So walk us around and kind of point out some of the particulars to get to this kind of level of finish.
Yeah, if you go back over by the reception desk, you'll see that that's an in-place family.
This yellow and elongated piece that kind of matches the edge of the stair there.
Yep, it's in place because it's contextual in how it engages that angled stair, and then the wall beyond on the right. So that's an in-place family with specific materials applied to it, and there's an in-place sign that you see to the right.
Where the letters are.
Yep,
kind of on a piece of perspex, like it's pulled out from the wall.
Exactly. Yep.
And why do you like to build those as in-place families as opposed to family components? What's the thinking there?
Well, it's kind of, again, when it's contextual and it's a one-off item,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, true.
easier for the average user to do that than to go into the family editor. Of course, if there's going to be more than one of anything, it should be a separate family.
Gotcha. Yeah, agreed.
Now, if we go down that hallway, we can go into the lunchroom and look at a few things there.
Which, not down here, the one behind the stairs.
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll go down and then there's a large curtain wall entrance.
Yep.
In.
And just go ahead and go in this break room?
Correct.
Okay.
So if you look up, you see there's some more of the USP Wavy Ceiling. Another interesting thing that is done here is there's a special wall type for the bulkhead. As you know, the bottom of walls do not get a material assigned to them. So this special wall type has a sweep defined across the bottom of the wall.
What, just along the bottom edge? Is it right. What, just a very thin kind of veneer, like just the thickness of a jib finish or something?
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's actually the same thickness as the gypsum board, and it's the same material. So when you're cutting your details through that, you'll also get the gypsum board across the bottom, which is how the detail should look.
Anyway,
and,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, I'll point out something here about with regard to Enscape. We're looking at this, and this came up before. It's respecting the level of detail in this view. So we're going to see the things at the finest level, which mean, the pulls for the casework, possibly the taps on the sink. Those things only show up at a certain level of detail for a view. Is that how you build your content? I mean, is that a pretty good practice with regard to content creation and visibility detail level?
Yeah, for sure. And again, this is actually content downloaded from a manufacturer's website. So that's the way the manufacturer set it up. And in the book, I talk about that. So you can turn it to coarse if you want to just see a real simplistic view. You don't really want to maybe imply to the client that it's all figured out and these are exactly what your polls are going to look like. The other thing
is most of the content actually created to be sensitive to level of detail, or do you tend to open it up, give it a once over, look at it, make sure that it's correct?
Yeah, for what we do in our office here, we will tend to review content and make sure it's not too heavy, overly detailed, and if there's opportunities to use coarse, medium, and fine, we might implement that as well. For the book, I don't really get into that level of detail, but with regards to this view and Enscape, it's pretty impressive when you look at the chrome type finishes on the faucet and the chairs and the reflections. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's little subtleties. You don't really see them until you almost create a rendering. But these reflections in the casework, I'm seeing a hot spot over here in the chrome where there's, a hot spot, but underneath you get that really dark underside. And that's the kind of stuff that I love about Enscape. It's just, I don't have to think about it, and then I see it. You just pick the right material, the right lighting.
One last comment in this particular space is that the countertop in this example is an in-place family. If you look to the left, you can see it has kind of a curvy end as it approaches the curtain wall that is the entire...
This piece.
Yeah, as it approaches the west wall, which happens to be an entire glass wall, rather than having a countertop just butt into the glass, it kind of curves to a smaller profile. So that was an in-place family was used to develop that.
And you like doing that for one-offs. If this was repeated, multi-story building, you might build a family component. Otherwise,
correct.
One-off. Okay. Yep. Where do we go next?
We can go out into the hallway, and we'll walk straight down the hallway to the right there, and then kind of hang a left. We have some conference rooms coming up and some interesting flooring in this impromptu meeting area here. So you can see that there's some subtle different floor patterns in these carpet squares.
So you model these as a separate veneer kind of finish to the
Correct.
floor that you get in Revit. And that's
Yep.
because why?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I cover in the interior design class that I've done. I've presented this class now already a couple of times in DC at RTC and Singapore. And the issue is that the structural floor is usually coming in as a link from the structural model. And we don't really have the opportunity to edit that material. And because each room has a different material, we can't use split face and paint because it's a linked floor. So what we typically do and what I advocate here in the book is creating an 1/8 inch thick floor that's offset up 1/8 inch thick. And it really ends up being about the same amount of work as doing a filled region, which is what I've seen done a lot in floor finish plans in Revit. They want to highlight the different carpet areas and the different tile areas, and they use a filled region, so basically a hatch. And once you have these floors set up with a common prefix that can be filtered out of the architectural plans, you can just draw the outline with the same amount of effort as a filled region, and you end up having something that you can schedule. It will render. It's showing up here conveniently in Enscape.
And it seems like you get a lot more control from it. I've had issues where the filled region can blow up if you start editing the floor sketch, whereas this is just going to stay put. You'll have to, you obviously have to fix it, but it's not going to automatically delete itself or something.
Correct. And so if you turn around and look behind you, you'll see a large conference room with, again, the wavy ceiling tile.
Yep. I'll just go inside here. Let me jump around and point back this way.
So this is
okay.
This is the cover image of the textbook, by the way. So you can see the carpet tiles on the floor.
Yep.
If we were to look at that in Revit, we would be able to see the material, the texture that's defined, the scale of the texture, and if you adjust that in Revit, you would see it update here in Enscape as well. In the little bit of playing that I've done with it, exploring the software.
And this, so you mentioned the wavy ceiling. This is the one that's coming from USG?
Yep, USG ceilings.
And so you're not having to build this kind of complicated feature. You're just downloading from manufacturer's website.
Right, and so that's kind of the goal here, is to really enlighten interior designers as to what their options are, and if they had to create all this stuff, it would be really a fairly limiting factor. But now that we're getting to this point where a lot of manufacturers are starting to make content, plumbing fixtures and furniture and these types of ceiling tiles and light fixtures as well, and then the light fixtures having the ability to attach photometry to them and really do real world point-by-point illuminance calculations in Revit using professional add-in like Illum tools. There's a lot of really cool options.
All right. Now, do you tend to build ceilings and other pieces as placeholders and then swap them out for other types, or do you tend to just put the piece that you think is going to be effective in?
Usually it's a pretty good guess first off. Deleting something and replacing it can be kind of a bad practice sometimes when you have the electrical putting face-based light fixtures. If you delete it and then replace it, and maybe that's not what you said. You were talking about placeholders and swapping it out.
Yeah, like you place it, you swap it out. I guess you could use a design option and sort of duplicate it that way and then put different iterations inside.
Speaking of design options, this model has a design option in the lobby, and that's covered in the book, using design options to try different furniture configurations within the project.
And Enscape will respect that, whichever phase or option is active or materials are active, those are the ones that are going to be shown.
So maybe next you can go up the stairs, and then we can see some more content.
I will mention I'm kind of navigating in fly mode. I'm not in gravity. I just kind of like to do that. I don't like having to be constrained. Obviously the doors and things don't get in your way, but it just lets you kind of fly around faster. In my experience, it doesn't. It's just a personal preference.
Sure. So there's you can see there's materials on the stairs. So applying materials to the stairs is a kind of a special effort. Same with the railings, making sure all the balusters and all the rails have materials, and as Phil knows, making ski lifts and things like that out of railings is pretty interesting.
So you're creating. So this railing at the top is a different material than the railings down the side.
Yeah, with since Revit 2013, there's some really interesting handrail subcomponent and a top rail subcomponent, and then even the supports that can be defined with the handrail are showing up here, and those all allow for different materials to be assigned. And actually, if you look here, the handrail that's at the edge of the floor actually has an extra rail added that mimics the stringer at the bottom that then lines up with the stringer of the stair. So sometimes
so this structure is contiguous here.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's really part of a separate railing family rather than the railing that's sitting on the actual stringer of the stair. There's different ways of doing that, but you can see the carpet tile again. If you look to the left here, this is going to Shaw Flooring's website, and at their website, once you find this particular carpet that you like, they give you the opportunity to download a high-res image of different carpet designs, like a 12 by 12 area. And so this is a 12 by 12 quarter turn, I believe is the style. But you can lay out these carpet tiles in various patterns, and so that carpet manufacturer, not necessarily for the benefit of Revit, they allow you to download these 12 by 12 high-res images. You bring that into Revit and calculate, I think these are like 20 centimeters wide or something like that. They're like kind of about 2 foot by 2 foot. And so 12 times 2 in Revit material editor, you're going to tell it that this material is 24 feet by 24 feet. And then Revit just tiles that throughout the area.
So you're saying the sample is a quarter turn sample, so you don't have to build this yourself. It's like the whole sample is a piece that has a quarter turn segment, and then that's what you place in as your material.
Right. I didn't just download one 2 foot by 2 foot tile and then go into Photoshop and start rotating it to make a bigger image. Although that's an option and would be required if the particular carpet manufacturer didn't offer what Shaw Flooring in this case offered.
Nice. Did you notice I swapped out your computers?
Yeah, I did.
There's lots of things you can find on the internet. Okay, yep. So what else? Something else you can show us?
Let's see. So let's go into one of the toilet rooms and let's see how the materials show up on the wall.
I don't know if I know where that is. If I turn around here.
And let's go down to the first floor. There are some on the second floor that are smaller. Like
just to locate myself, I'm going to... Oh, wait a minute. Do you have Entourage in here? Oh, no. I thought there were books on the shelves. I'm going to go down the stairs, kind of. So when I want to go to the washrooms, where do I go around the back again like before?
Yep, back by the break room.
Okay.
Which is convenient, right? And then that door on the left there. Yep. So if you go in there.
All right. I think I can navigate myself. Okay.
So what's kind of cool here is there's a couple of different applications of material here just to show how it can be done. If you look up just a little bit, this particular example would be editing the wall type which is kind of tricky in the wall type structure editor. You have to turn on the preview and set it to section, and then you have to cut the gypsum board to be able to apply multiple materials to that wall in section. So the materials that you see here are a derivative of using the wall type, not somebody using the split face and paint tool.
So you're talking about this particular region, the regions above and below. You're splitting it here, or you're putting in another material region for this tile. Okay, well, and down here as well.
Yep, and if you look to the left, just to kind of cover all the options, this example in the foreground is in the book does use split face and paint. And so
along here.
And so if you were working on this interior elevation and you got that all set up nice and neat in this view here, you'd notice right away that around the corner next to the sink, that material hasn't been applied yet. And so maybe there's an interior elevation missing that where that wasn't completely obvious in your Revit documents. So seeing this hole here would be helpful.
Yeah, it makes it discoverable.
Yep. And the toilet, the urinal, and then the toilet, if you go into the stall, are the...
I don't know if I can get in. There's no door. Okay,
oh,
sorry.
This is the... Oh, you know what? So these are both the water closet and the urinal are Toto brand. And the Seek website has a really nice toilet, but upgrading it to 2016, there's something in the family that makes it need to be deleted from the model during the upgrade process.
We found that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just concentrate on this one.
Yeah, so you can place it in new, but you can't have it in a model and upgrade it. So we can't see ourselves in the mirror. The software is...
No, software doesn't do that. Oh. Okay, so where next?
Let's go out the door and let's see. If we go back upstairs, I guess maybe there's a couple of...
Look, I like that open office space upstairs too. It gives you, it's hard to visualize the kind of subtleties of being in an open office. I mean, just coming up the stairs and kind of saying, okay, well, there's this kind of overlook. You can see what's going on. You know, these open workspaces, you get a really different feel when you're seeing it with the lighting, with the day lighting come in, you know, how people are going to work. And that's why I really love this tool. I can't get that anywhere else in the moment. And I know if we change something or tweak it, it's going to update. I'm going to get that kind of immediate feedback that I want rather than having to wait and export or render and wait.
Yeah, the other thing is just a lot of times clients in particular aren't familiar with looking at plans. So as you came up the steps and you approached that seating area right there, which is meant to be like a casual meeting area, the client would be able to maybe better perceive the fact that, well, maybe they don't want that seating to be the first thing somebody sees when they walk up the stairs.
They're coming up the stairs, right.
Potentially have some sensitive meeting going on in this law office. So, you know, that would allow the client to really kind of say, well, maybe that seating should be in an enclosed room somewhere. Or
look, the detail you've got here, you've got feet on the bottom of these tables.
So yeah, that's the beauty of the manufactured content. You know, like I said, Steelcase and Herman Miller, they all have some really great content. One of the challenges that I mentioned in the book when you download manufacturer content is, and this is just the way Revit's designed, is that the textures don't come along for the ride. When you download an RFA family, you don't also get the textures embedded in that family, right? And when you do renderings, you get errors saying that these textures are missing. So you really need to find on that manufacturer website, which they usually have like a zip file. You can download all the JPEGs and PNG files. And then in the Revit options dialog box, you can do the material mapping so that Revit and I presume Enscape knows where to look for those materials.
Yeah, I don't think it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to go back and repath everything. It's just looking for the material by name.
Right, and that's assuming it can find it. If it's in some obscure
right.
then you have to go into Revit's options dialog box and kind of point it to that area. And then when you do renderings, whether local or in the cloud or using Enscape, it'll actually be able to find the material.
Look, I love it. I love the detail in here. I love to be able to walk around and get this kind of emotional sense of what that, the space feels light and airy. The material of this seating gives me a different feel than just having a small kind of couch object in there and not knowing what that's going to feel like. And the reflections, the lighting, to be able to, to view into this office beyond and get that sense of what is the space like. You guys, you've just done a fantastic job here, an incredible level of detail. But, from what I've read, this is not something that you would consider out of the ordinary. This is what's possible every day.
Correct. Yep. There's pretty simple workflows, like I mentioned. Once you get things set up in your template and you have kind of a precedence for those thin floors, drawing a finished floor is pretty much the same amount of work as drawing a filled region. Of course, you can then duplicate that floor and swap out the texture for that new copy, and it's just it's all about the preparation, really, and that's what the book gets at.
Then once you get your kind of kit of parts together, you're good.
Correct.
Oh, very cool. I'll just go back in the lobby. We'll go back to where we started. We'll walk down. Yeah, well, and I'll just stop here. I love these offices through here, like having that kind of interstitial, instead of just having the offices start here at the bottom of the stair, it kind of welcomes you into this upper area. It's pretty cool.
Right, and being able to stand in that space and see what you would see from that space using something like this, really beneficial. Again, really helps the client and the entire design team understand what's going on.
So you're still playing with Enscape?
Yeah, I have. And, as I was talking with you earlier, I look forward to letting my students play around with this at some time. You had mentioned that there's a student version available for...
Yes, there is. Yep. Give them you send them an email with your .edu address, and they'll send you a license. So with that, thank you very much. I'll make sure that the links, the hyperlinks, and people know where to get your book. If they ask you questions, is there a good place if they send email? How do you like people to find you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook?
Yeah, LinkedIn or Twitter is fine, at Dan Stine _MN, MN for Minnesota. Is definitely a good option. It's not at Dan Stine socks and sandals.
Yes. Well, that's right. And if anyone wants to chat with you in Australia in a few months, you'll be the guy in socks and sandals.
Apparently.
Dan, that's great. Thank you very much, buddy. Have a good day.
No problem.